Hey everyone, welcome back to Portal of Wisdom. I'm back today with another story for you. So if you are new to the channel, like and subscribe and click that little post notification bell so you can get alerted when I post new videos. And now on to today's topic. Today we are going to talk about another lost mine in western Arizona, and this is the lost Bautista mine. And this story starts out sometime in the 1860s. Now, we don't know the exact year, but at some point in the 1860s, there was a wealthy Mexican landowner. His name was Juan Bautista, or Bautista Alvarado, and he traveled to the Gila River Valley in Arizona, and he came by way of California. It doesn't say how long he was in California, but he came from the California area and he decided to make the Gila River Valley his home. Now, we don't know exactly where along the Gila River, and the Gila River runs through central Arizona from quite a ways in eastern Arizona all the way to the western border and dumps into the Colorado River. And being as where this mine was said to be, it seems that he was in the western part of the Gila River Valley. Anyhow, but it was said that Juan was quite a generous man, and he gave whatever help he could to his neighbors and others in need, and he was even friendly to the Apache natives who also called this area home. So one of the local bands of Apaches were fairly common to be seen on Juan's land. And Juan had befriended them, and he was known to give them medical attention and give them help whenever they needed it. So due to his kindness to the Apaches, Juan and the chief became friends. Juan also provided food and gunpowder to the Apaches when he could, and other supplies. And he was also known to provide presents to the Apache children when they accompanied the Apache adults on his land, especially when the children brought in hay and food to the corral for his horses and livestock. So this kindness did not go unnoticed by the chief, and the chief had decided to give Juan a present of his own. So one day, the chief rode up with some of his warriors and some women and children, and they rode up onto Juan's farm. And the chief had one of the children give Juan a present. And this child handed Juan 3 pieces of rust-colored quartz that was laced in rich gold. The chief then said that he and his men would take Juan to the source, as they knew gold was coveted by many men in the area. And Juan thanked the chief for his return generosity, and he saddled up his horse and he got ready for the trip. And it was said that they headed off into the Little Horn Mountains until they came to a special spot. And this spot was said to contain a ledge that was a rusty red color like rust on a knife blade, and along this ledge was gold-laced ore everywhere. Juan took all that he could fit in his saddlebags, and he was carving the gold out from the ledge with his knife and using other rocks to smash the gold ore from the ledge, and he did what he could to get all the ore that he could. And he ended up with so much ore that he had to fill up his food pack with the remaining ore after his saddlebags were full. Then as he looked up a little ways up on the hillside or the cliffside, he noticed that there appeared to be an old abandoned mine above him. So he climbed up there and he went inside, and he realized it was an old abandoned Spanish mine. So he found a pile of processed ore inside the mine entrance, and he took what he could of this processed ore. So this ore was said to be ready to be smelted. And at this point, he had to use his jacket to hold this ore. So once he had everything that he could possibly manage to carry or haul back, he sealed the entrance of this mine with a crude rock wall. He intended to come back to retrieve more ore. Then he and the Apaches departed this area. And when he returned home, it was said that he had over 150 pounds of gold ore, and this gold ore was very rich in gold. So at this point in Juan's life, he was already getting fairly old, and his health eventually started to deteriorate pretty rapidly. So he was never able to go back to this gold mine location before he managed to pass on. And he was never able to pass along any clear details of the location with directions. As far as we know, the rock walled up mine has never been found. The Little Horn Mountains are located just east of the Kofa National Refuge in western Arizona. This area is still very desolate and dangerous, so if someone was to go out there looking, then they would for sure want to make sure they follow local, state, and federal laws, but also you'd want to make sure to take plenty of water and supplies and watch out for rattlesnakes. This area is still extremely desolate, so it is very possible that that mine could still be out there. Civilization still has not really hit this area. So anyhow, but it's very remote also and difficult to get to. So that is the story of the Lost Bautista mine. Thanks for listening. Okay, so we're not going to end it there, because if you love lost mine stories, lost treasure stories as much as I do, then heck, we deserve another story. So I am going to tell you another story, and we will go over those details. So back in 1874, and this story is called the Lost Bent Creek Gold, or Lost Bent Creek Gold Discovery. So it was back in 1874. There was a little tributary creek of San Domingo Wash that a gold prospector and miner who had been employed by the Vulture Mine, this gentleman's name was James Bent, and if you know anything about the Vulture Mine in Arizona history, Phoenix basically exists because of the Vulture Mine. The Vulture Mine was one of the richest gold discoveries in the very early days of Arizona, and a lot of prospectors and miners worked at this mine, and it produced a lot of gold, and it is just west of Wickenburg, Arizona today, and it's like a really cool ghost town now that you can definitely go and see and everything. So anyhow, a lot of those buildings, being as it's desert and they're made out of rock, a lot of those buildings still stand, and it's actually a pretty cool place to go see. So if you're in the Wickenburg area, go see the Vulture Mine ghost town and what's left of this old town of Vulture at the Vulture Mine. Anyhow, back to the story. So this gentleman, his name is James Bent. He was rounding up horses that had strayed away from the Vulture Mine over a couple of days, and so he was sent out to retrieve them and find them in the nearby valleys and everything. And he was gathering up these horses, and it was said he was somehow bucked off of a horse or fell off a horse or whatever, and he landed directly on a cholla cactus. Ouch, that is not fun. Chollas have a lot of spines. So when he finally retrieved his horse, he was exhausted, he was full of cactus spines, and it was said that he walked over to a small little creek nearby that was flowing. And he went there to get the cactus thorns out, and when he was looking into this small little creek, he noticed there was a crack in the bedrock, and this crack in the bedrock was holding a beautiful, nice little gold nugget. And so he was amazed by this find, and he's like, wow, how lucky he was to find this nugget. He felt really lucky, but He looked a little closer, and then he found another one, and another one, and another one. And pretty soon he filled his pants pockets with these gold nuggets, and he ended up taking back off toward the Vulture Mine. And of course, word spread pretty quick once James Bent returned. He couldn't really keep his secret. And so apparently he cashed in a lot of the gold for supplies and animals and stuff like that, because he had a new venture now and he quit the Vulture Mine. So there were a couple of his friends that went along with him and also quit the Vulture Mine, and they went to stake their own claims in this area, hoping that it would be more productive than the Vulture Mine. Now, the Vulture Mine was crazy, the amount of gold that it produced. So James Bent didn't have quite the frenzy of people coming with him as in a lot of other stories in this, type of situation, because there was so much gold in this area, and especially in the Vulture Mine area, that people might not have wanted to go on what they might have deemed as a fool's errand when they had really good jobs at the mine and the gold seemed endless. And anyhow, but nonetheless, James did have a couple of his friends at the mine that did quit and go with him, and they intended to go file claims at this new location, and they quit the Vulture Mine. So it was said that James, once they went to this location, retrieved some more gold, he would go back and forth to the Vulture Mine. He would use the gold to purchase more supplies and things like that they needed for their operation that they were trying to get going in this particular creek area. Well, on one of these trips, these two gentlemen that were with James Bent, they were arrested, and it's not known exactly what the situation was, but they were arrested by the military. And so now James Bent was working this area alone again. But not long after that, James Bent was found dead just 8 miles from the Vulture Mine when he was on his way to purchase more supplies. So it was said that he was most likely killed by the Yavapai Apache in a very gruesome way. He was found tied to the ground with no clothes on, and he was laying on his back, and a fire had been made on his chest, and a cholla cactus ball had been shoved in his mouth. So that was how James met his demise. So his camp and the exact tributary creek of the San Domingo Wash has never been found. It still could be out there waiting to be discovered. All of this happened in pretty quick succession, so James was never able to file any mining claim or, at all for this area. So since he didn't file a mining claim, we don't know exactly where it was, or if there was a lot more gold in the area, or what exactly the situation was. But that is the story of James Bent and his mine that he called the Lost Bent Creek Gold.